A long, long time ago, planet Earth, our beloved Gaia, was hijacked by dark forces. Living in a lower vibration of fear and duality, destruction was created upon her and her human children were made slaves. Gaia made a call for help, for she wished to ascend and she wanted humanity to rise with her and be free. Starseeds from all over the cosmos who had a deep love for Gaia and humanity heard the call and came from different dimensions and planets to incarnate on Earth and help her ascend. This was a very brave and selfless act to do, for they had to experience the darkness and transmute it from within and shine their light in the darkest of places. Thousands were placed all over the Earth, raising the vibration of the planet and forming a powerful grid of light. And thus, the Gaia warrior was born, an ineffable force of love and light. This is their story. Gaia Warriors here, and this is Athena, and I'm so glad that you guys are joining in today because I have a really awesome, powerful sister of mine from Hawaii that has really inspired me a lot and I think has some really powerful codes to share. So yeah, I'm very grateful to introduce my friend Sanoi over here, and we're going to get into some juicy content.
Aloha. Yeah.
Do you want to say a little bit about, your name and where you're from and
My name is Sonoy. I'm from the island of Oahu, Hawaii, and born and raised on the islands. And after graduation, I was called upon to travel the world. Well, I went to college first in California and Washington, and then after that, I went to travel the world. So now, after traveling the world for many years and growing and evolving, and now here I am today with you, beautiful soul. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So I'm very curious, Sanoi. You went from being a bartender on a cruise ship.
Yeah.
What was your awakening story? How did that happen from you getting to that lifestyle to where you are right now?
Today. Yeah, so my first life on this planet, I got like 2 lives on this planet, well, many more in between, but so first of all, I from Hawaii, I came to the mainland. I had a hard time transitioning into this kind of life. I would say, I was very racist. I looked through the eyes of skin color, so I had a problem being in the mainland. I'd fight a lot and argue a lot and had a lot of hatred in my heart and aggression, so I played college sports, and then I was working on the cruise ship. Long story short, when I was in Hong Kong, I almost got kidnapped in a sex trade slavery. So when that happened, it really brought me an awareness that there's bigger problems on the planet than just partying it up. I'd drink a half a bottle of whiskey every day, party like a rock star. But when I was in a situation where my life was on the line, and it brought me an awareness that there are bigger things to experience on this planet. Life is just not a party. There's many, many things going on where we choose to ignore. So with that experience in Hong Kong guided me to volunteer in Nepal. And when I was in Nepal, building a school for little girls out of slavery, because since I almost got kidnapped in Hong Kong, I felt the call. A friend had brought it up to then volunteer in Nepal to, build a little school for girls being bought out of slavery. And so when that happened, the creator started showing me numbers, and I guess my heart was beginning to open. And before this, I wasn't into any kind of spirituality. I was just bartending, partying, had a house, 2-car garage, 2 cars, making as much money as possible. But when I was in Nepal, the creator started showing me these numbers. And then this number was 54, and it kept on following me everywhere. And I would ask people, like, what happened? What is this? Why is there numbers following me? Like, is this a normal thing? And nobody could understand what was going on. So when I went and helped the girls, which was a very beautiful experience. And when that happened, I went to get this tattoo. It was when Buddha awakened, but in Nepal, it's just the symbol for my remembrance with my participation with these little girls. And so I got this tattoo and went to the airport. And when I was in the airport, I asked for the Wi-Fi password, and the woman said it doesn't work. So I was like, just give me this number anyway. Give me the password anyway, because I'm going to be here forever, a long time, So anyways, I put the password in. The password was full service. I was like, this lady doesn't know what she's talking about, And so the first thing that came to me was, what is the significance of 54? All right, so I type it in, like, significance of 54. And then it was like all the spiritual stuff. And I was like, what is this? Spiritual, blah, blah, blah. And then in the middle of the page, in big, bold, red letters, it says, it is now time to begin your divine soul purpose in life. And then the internet went out, and then I had a full Kundalini awakening in the middle of Kathmandu airport. Yeah. But at the time, I don't know what that is, right? Because I don't know meditation. I don't know chakras. I don't know nothing. I don't know God. I don't know creator, nothing like that. So from that point on, I was kind of tripping out. I was like, oh my God, what's going on? I feel so different, and so it was so true, because then the creator brought me a angel, now that I look back. Because then this woman, I was freaking out, but then this woman came and she sat next to me, and I was thinking, like, oh my God, I'm freaking out. Like, why are you sitting by me, And then she, like, tapped me, and she's like, can you watch my bags? And I was like, oh my God, this lady wants to blow me up. Because I'm going to get kidnapped in Hong Kong, and I was like, blow me up, and I'm having this awakening, and then I was like, I was like, sure, yeah, no problem. So then she left, and then I was like, you know what? If you're going to blow me up, you're going to blow up my back. So I like, blow my back. And then I see her coming, and she comes back, sit down, I'm like, okay, wait, sit here. So I sat there, and then she taps me again, and then I look at her, and she goes like this, water? Because it's harder to get water over there, and I was like, thank you. And I'm like, oh my God, she's going to drug me. Right? So I'm like, oh my God, she's going to blow me up. She's going to drug me. I'm never going to get home. Right? And then after, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And then I just chugged the whole cup. I guess divine faith. And I was sitting in the corner, and then for 2 hours, we didn't speak, nothing. Because I'm over here figuring out, what am I looking at? What is this feeling? And then they call my flight. And I was like, okay. So I get up, and I go to walk out, and then she grabs my arm. And I look at her like that, and she's like, happy journey. Wow. Right? So that was like the beginning of my awakening. But when I got to California, I was driving to go see my family. I had some family there, and I was listening to this music, and I guess it was just opening my heart. The creator was really working on my energy field, and I was just opening my heart, and then all of a sudden, I felt like I got struck by lightning. I was like, and I started screaming in my car. It was like 7 times, and then I just started screaming like, what is happening to me? And I start crying and crying. Oh my God, what is it? And then I get to my sister's house, and I'm okay, you can't tell nobody what happened, because they're gonna think you're drunk. Because I used to drink so much alcohol back then, and they can think you're on drugs, they can think you're drunk. Don't say nothing. So I walk in the house, and right now I'm feeling so high, and I'm just like, what is going on? And then my sister starts talking to me, and I'm looking at her, and then all of a sudden all I hear is wah, wah, and I'm just like, what is happening? So from that, then, I was guided, long story short, guided to sell all of my things. I sold my house. I stopped paying for my house, to tell you the truth. And then after that, I sold my cars. I sold everything I had. I actually sat in front of the fireplace with my pile of mail, and I sat there, and I just threw one letter in the fire, one at a time, just cheering myself on. Yes. It felt so good. It was my exit from that kind of lifestyle and into then the journey that has led me here today.
Wow. Yeah. It's a powerful story.
Yeah. Hey, man, when it's time, it's time.
Right. So I'm really interested. So you grew up in Oahu, and it was a very a lot of sort of crime, right? You had to like you had to stand up for yourself in the streets and be really strong, and so you said you were kind of racist. I'm kind of curious, how did you transmute this? Like, so in Hawaii, are you guys being sort of brainwashed to not like white people?
Yeah, it's
so how did you transmute
fault.
that?
You know, that's how that's just the excuse, you know. If you you can get away with anything if you just say the haole did this, and then you are innocent from everything, you know. So I was born and raised with not anything, you know. I didn't have any money. My parents were not there, on drugs, and you know, today they have overcome those things, but back then, you know, it basically was a free-for-all for me, my brother and my sister. I was more like the dad figure. My sister was like the mom figure, and then I had a little brother who was like our son, you know. And I was like 5 years old. My sister was 6-year-old. He was 3-year-old, kind of thing, in that age range. And so we had to fight for our lives, you know. And we had to find money on the floor to find food, you know. I couldn't go to school without a 25 cents. So I had to find 25 cents so I could give it to the bus man so I can get to school. Whoa. You know. And every time we'd move a lot because, you know, anybody born and raised in Hawaii knows how tough it is. Like the true Hawaiians know how tough it is. It's just a survival life existence, you know, for food and for housing. And so you learn the hard way, you know. And so every time we moved, you know, those local kids, you'd have to be initiated. You know, if they see you walking on the street, now it's time to show respect, you know. And so I'd walk home, and then here would come one bully. You know, at the time I was a tomboy too, you know, so I looked like a little boy, you know. So what happens, I'd be walking home because I was the protector of my sister and my brother, and then the bully would come, you know, and it was time. You just put your bag down and just said, let's go, you know, and then you go for it, you know, and the winner is the winner and the loser is the loser. Whoa. But the cool thing back then, you know, one time a boy brought a hammer, you know. You just gotta be quick, you know. Teach me all Jedi defense now, you know.
Whoa.
I know, right? He had a lot of people behind him. I only had 2 people behind me, you know. I think it was only 2nd grade or something, that one. But you know, the winner is the winner, the loser is the loser. Although the winner is respected, the loser is greatly respected because they didn't run away. So they get more respect, the one who has lost, but who has not run away. You know, so that's kind of how I grew up. You know, I grew up street fighting, you know, until you gain respect. Until when I was 9th grade, I was walking home, and then the main bully came out, and he was like, all right, let's go. You know, I was like, let's do it. You know, he didn't know I was a girl. So I was like, let's go then, you know. And we both threw blows, like, and it lasted for about 10 minutes, and we're both so tired, but none of us fell. We just stood there, and then we both looked at each other and said, you had enough? I was like, yeah. And then we just kind of like honored each other and walked away. And then we went to school the next day because I was new in town, right? I was moving. And then everyone told him that I was a girl. And then he just like humbled himself, and he told everybody I beat him up. And then the whole town respected me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you joined the military, right?
Yep, I joined the military after high school, and I had to, you know, this is my training for then today, you know, to make sure I can walk in confidence, no fear. You know, I have the skills to protect myself, but I don't, you know, that's not necessary. It's that is what allows me to walk in confidence. You know, I have military training. I was throwing grenades, shooting M16s, and doing like hand-to-hand combats and stuff with all people from all over the world. And you know, it was very challenging for self-discipline, I would say. That's why for me, I live off of core values. You know, it's like morals, ethics, and values, gratitude, respect, integrity. All of this is what, you know, you truly need on this planet as value, you know, for exchange. I didn't have any money growing up, so I used gratitude. And then I was treated like, you know, with great abundance. You know, that was my secret. Just say thank you and please, and you will be given everything. And that's kind of what happened to me on my journey. You know, I played all the sports, so all my friends' parents, because I used thank you and please, and they saw I had no parents, they would buy me shoes to play, they would pay for my fees, they would buy me food, they would take me home. So it kept me off the streets. kept me motivated and determined to make it, in sports, and make sure that I didn't end up like my mother. That's the thing, even though my mom's my best friend today, I love you, Mom, if you're watching this, but it's like, growing up, it was like, a lot of people use the excuse, well, my mom this, my dad that, my aunt did it. No, I looked at my parents, and I was like, I'm not gonna be like that. And that's it. That was my, that was my way of figuring out what not to do. You just gotta have no victim kind of mentality, and then you can see the gratitude and the teachings in that.
Right, that's a good point. A lot of people like to blame their parents or their environment, and
Totally.
instead of realizing what I believe is you choose your parents,
Yeah.
you choose where you're born, you choose these certain experiences, and so the people that trigger you the most, and our parents, who are always our biggest
Yeah.
triggers, they're teaching us what not to be, and they're basically, we're contracted to them because there's certain lessons we need to learn,
Yeah.
and they basically play these roles in our lives, and they're great teachers in that way. So when
Yeah.
you talk about the victim thing, I think that's really powerful, because something that I've noticed with a lot of people, especially you being an Indigenous Hawaiian, a lot of Indigenous people have that victim mentality, and I know what's happened to them has been really awful and terrible, and the colonization has just been so horrendous. But I do feel it is disempowering
Yes.
for these people to carry around this victim mentality. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's so cool. I just got super clarity this last month, going to a festival and seeing the depth on where this is coming from, and watching the Indigenous people have victim state. They don't realize they're giving their power away. And so what I saw, it's like, yes, we all were colonized. Every culture was colonized. The thing about it too was like, wait a minute, the Hawaiians are being colonized right now, and nobody's saying nothing. How come the Hawaiians aren't getting retributions for anything or being acknowledged for anything? You know why? Because it's happening right now. You see what I'm saying? That's why nobody's saying anything. Give it 100 more years, and they'll talk about the Hawaiians like how they talk about the Native Americans. So I've come to realize the Hawaiians is happening right now. And nobody's sending any help to bring those people back up in health. They're all suffering from depression and overtaking, and all this is happening today. But there is no blame. You don't blame the colonizers. And, Hawaiians need to get up. But if you're looking at it from a larger scale, the natives were fighting each other before the colonizers came. And to overcome separation on this planet is to come together. So the natives need to apologize to each other, so they can grieve what has happened there, so they can move them to the next step. And then, yes, the colonizers has come. Yeah, that happened everywhere. But now we're here today. So how will we coexist? How will we coexist? Because I feel what the transmission I got was, it's not just about the colonizers and the natives anymore. Now it's about the galactics. I feel like humanity is being prepared to raise their consciousness and invite galactic information and brothers and sisters into that. So I feel like I'm a bridge for the colonizers and the natives to come back together. Natives need to overcome I feel the natives need to overcome their victim state to come to the now to see where they're at, but they need to have like a public grieving. With each other. Grieve that historic trauma. Grieve it out, and then come together to find solution. I feel that the people who blame, they call them the colonizers, those colonizers need to learn the values of the natives. Morals, ethics, values, integrity. I was just at this festival, and that's what happened. What happened was I had my booth, okay? So I had my booth. I was there for many festivals, and then the last festival, this kitchen moved in right next door. But it wasn't like next door, it was like on top our booth. So I came and I said, excuse me, kitchen people, this is our booth, and it's very sacred, and I know you guys are gonna be sacrificing a lamb. So if you guys are gonna be cooking and stuff, can you please let me know, because that kind of smoke cannot come in our booth because it's very sacred, And they're like, no, we're gonna have our booth over here. I was like, okay, so just to make sure, I'll give you guys more space. I'm gonna move our booth 2 more booths down, okay? And then you guys can have all that space for your kitchen. They're like, oh yeah, you know, because we just feel this is the heart of the festival and we just want to put it here. You know, I was like, of course you do, because we've been here for 2 festivals and we've been creating beautiful energy. And of course it's the heart energy, and you want to put your lamb sacrifice over here. You know, I was like, I won't judge you on that, but fine. You know, but we're going to move down. Okay, we're gonna move down, and then we're gonna all be at peace, right? And then, oh yeah, of course we're gonna do that. And then so we were doing a ceremony in our bell tent, like on the other side, and I kept on coming back. Every time I come back, now that I had moved our booth 2 down, they had moved their kitchen and expanded it back to our booth. Now it was on our booth again, and so I was like, so I went back to the person who was in charge of that and said, hey, excuse me, remember I told you about our booth? And they're, oh yeah, we're not gonna, this is just, we're just making this and then we're moving it over there. We're just using this space for this. And I was like, okay, because we have 2 dear sisters who are gonna come. One has a baby, she's gonna be on one side, and another dear sister who's gonna be on the other side. They're, oh yeah, no, we're not, we're gonna be over there. I'm like, okay. I was like, if you have a problem with space here, because I need to know, because, you know, if you need anything, you see that booth over there, you see that bell tent, we're gonna be doing ceremony in there. You just come get me, and then we can arrange something, okay? And they're like, oh yeah. And I was like, okay. So then I go back, and then now it's getting dark, and I go back to make sure, you know, and they had like basically cemented all their things in against our booth. They put the stick in the ground, and they're like, oh, we can't move that. That's there. I'm like, what are you talking about? You told me it was gonna be over there. I was like, oh, I know, but this is like, looks good. I'm like, oh, so, okay, I say, okay. I was like, I'll be right back. So I went back and I told about it, you know, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna have to tell them. It's over now, right? So I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to tell them. Creator said, tell them, and I will. You know, so I said, okay, well, you know, so I went back and I was standing, and now it's tricky though, because then it was like, now it was like, the kitchen that was like so beautiful, right? I would say the mall. They made like this mall, you know. And then after I go, and now all the volunteers are in a circle, okay? They're all in a circle, and I come, and then I watch. I was like, should I do it? And Creator's like, stay there and do it. I'm like, okay, fine, right? And then so what happened was each person was going in the circle. Okay, one person went in the circle, and you pick up the sand, and then you put it on the buffalo head, and you're like, my name is so and so, and I am here for love and joy. I'm like, right? And then they go out, and I'm like, oh yeah. And then the other person, my name is so and so, and I'm here for community and co-creation. I'm like, these guys, bro. You know, and then they look at me, they're like, sister, right? And I was like, no. Right? Because then I'm like, oh, we're just so happy, joy over here. You know, I was like, no. And then so they left, and then it was funny because then another person went. Then the guy comes up to me. He's like, "Sister, would you like to say something?" And I was like, "Yes, I do." So then I go in, right? Because he had announced your name, and I was like, "Okay, here we go." Right? I was like, "Okay, I got this." Right? So I go in, you know, because I feel I was like the only native there at this time, you know, and then I go in, and I go like this. My name is Sonoy, right? I was like, my name is Sonoy. And I pick up the sand, I go this. And I am here for clarity and consideration. And then I walk out, and everybody's like, oh, right? And I was like, yeah, that's right. Right? And then after the coordinator goes, I know that there's some vendors here who are kind of concerned about a few things. And I'm like, yeah, that's me over here. And he's like, okay, we're going to talk about that, right? I was like, yeah, we are going to talk about that. And then so we went, and then the main organizer, she's like, well, talk to me. She's the one running everything. And I was like, okay, I'm going to speak to you. And then so she was waiting for a whole people in line, and then I went over there, and she finally made space for me, and she's like, what's going on? And I was like, okay, You see that booth over there? I've been telling everybody how sacred that booth is. This kitchen people, I've been speaking to them all day, and they've been intruding and intruding and intruding. No communication. I came kindly, I came softly. It's been disrespected. So then she came out, and now I'm speaking to her, you know, and I'm like, look, here's the deal. And then everybody started to surround me, you know, so now I'm feeling like judgment and all that kind of stuff. But I was like, no, I will speak this. And I was like, here's the deal. We've been here for many festivals, and this has been our space. There have been no communication. I've been talking about how sacred our booth is, and you guys are gonna sacrifice an animal and do your guys' own thing, whatever, but that smoke is gonna go into our booth, and we can't have that. This is sacred, you know. And they're like, and then she's like, oh, I'm sorry about that. I was like, no, it's not about being sorry. It's about your behavior. I was like, you know what this is doing? Do you know what you guys just did here? You guys are this festival that's supposed to be bringing two worlds together, right? The natives and the colonizer people, and then you're supposed to change that kind of pattern. You guys are doing that pattern. You guys are hypocrites. Okay? I was like, look, I'm over here. What if this is one village, right? This is my little hut here, and then you guys come in. Oh, look, this is the heart. Let's put them all. Let's just put them all here because it serve more people than those two huts. And then you're like, okay, those two, just move them over there, okay? I mean, what about grandma? Grandma's buried right there. Oh, just put her under the cement, whatever. You know, and I'm just like, okay. It's like, this is what you did to our booth, okay? You came on our booth, and then I'm talking to you, and you're like, oh, but our thing is better. And then we moved over kindly, and then you came back on our booth, and then I was like, you know what this is? You are triggering ancestor wounds here, okay? I was like, your guys' behavior is the same pattern as the colonizing, you know? So I was like, you know what? And they were like trying to cater to me, and I was like, I don't need your catering. I need you guys to see your behavior. This is why your festivals don't work, because your morals, ethics, and values are not aligned with what you are trying to do. The natives carry a different morals, ethics, and values. And you over here with your entitlement and your all this stuff. And today is 2024 at this festival. You're supposed to bring worlds together, and your pattern is the same thing. You know, I was like, this is not right. I was like, this is hypocrite. You know, so I was like, you know, and they all came, and I started speaking. They're like, well, what should we do? And then the people were like, well, we can help you move your booth. I'm like, oh yeah. Like how, like all other types of ways you colonize places, just move it to the side. I was like, don't touch my stuff. You know, I was like, don't touch my things. I will move it myself. You know, so anyways, long story short, I just told them don't move it. We went, and then I went over there, and then our four goddesses went and you know, stood in our power, and we just moved our booth to their side, which was actually a lot better. You know, it was a lot better, and it didn't have the smoke. But the point was the process of how that went down, you know, their behavior on how that went down. It's like the same thing as the same formula has happened. So they all came to speak to me one by one, you know, the people who put on the festival, and they're like, I apologize for you know, what happened, for you guys moving. I was like, that's the thing you don't see. The concern is, I'm not disappointed in that we have to move. That's fine, because where we are a lot better anyway. But to the process of how you did that is the same formula of the colonization behavior that you guys are supposed to overcome. And so therefore, I am in disappointment with your behavior, you know? But again, now I see clearly why the Creator has done this. I am not upset. Now I see why the Creator did this to me, because now I can see what the root of this is. It's not to have these festivals to be like, oh, look, we're friends now, when really, in reality, nobody really likes each other still. It's more, everyone must be in the same definition of the morals, ethics, and values, and how to treat each other with respect and integrity. You know, we need to overcome this entitlement. We need to overcome all of these, like, well, this would be better here. You know, there needs to learn to be respect. So me and when I spoke with them, you know, we agreed that the miscommunication and the entitlement was very disrespectful. And now I can see the solution to bringing the worlds together, you know, because nobody is doing anything, you know, maliciously. Everybody has beautiful hearts. Both worlds do, you know. those who are called the colonizers and those who are the natives, like everybody has beautiful heart. It's just misunderstanding on these values, ethics, and morals, which I'm so grateful that I was able to experience. So now I can shine light upon it all.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what happened.
It's a powerful story. It's true. I see that entitlement, and I think sometimes it's a subconscious behavior of ancestral behavior of how all of their ancestors have behaved, and so it's like something that's just happening. So spirit actually orchestrated that whole thing, so you could shine light into their behavior, and so they could actually bring light into their subconscious patterns, because I don't think it was intentional, but it's like a lot of our patterns that we're here to transmute are ancestral. They are unconscious.
Exactly.
And so these situations, the creator will always sort of orchestrate them to bring light. And now I'm sure those people next time, because you said something, they're going to think differently. And that's why I'm really inspired by the way that you stand up for yourself, and you go and you call things out when they're meant to be called out. A lot of people are scared of confrontation. They don't want to do it because it's uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, the message and the teaching is more important than your own comfort.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why, you know, doing this journey after my soul awakened, you know, I serve the highest good, and you know, and I have to make sure I don't come from judgment or anger or, you know, aggression. Is just to see the deeper meaning of what the creator is showing me, so I can be the proper messenger to shine light upon confusion. Because again, you know, I surround myself with beautiful people, but then the behaviors are still, you know, ancestrally or embedded in the subconscious. And a lot of people don't deal with confrontation well, right? So nobody wants to bring up anything of the darkness. You just want to pretend only get light. But how is the darkness to be transformed if the light doesn't shine upon that? You know, so my journey, I've had to learn how to be comfortable in uncomfortableness. You know, because as an empath too, when I begin to speak, I can feel the uncomfortableness in the people, you know? And when I feel that uncomfortableness, I have to still make sure I don't move, and I still hold that and not, you know, be affected by other people's emotions, but to still deliver that from my highest truth.
So how would you say you've overcome the judgment, or like how did you overcome your own hatred or racist that you had towards white people? How did you?
Yeah, so what happened was, so I was a jock in high school, and you know, I went to the military, then I came back because I didn't like that, and then I went to college, you know, and I was like, I'm gonna play sports for college. And so I went to Washington and played sports for them, and I was on a team only white people, and there was me, and I don't like white people. I would jump out of my truck and shoot them all with paintball guns. You know, I would throw rocks, and I would be like, go home, Howleys. You know, I did not have one white friend. Don't even talk to me. Don't even look at me. You know what I mean? You stole everything. You know, look at us because of you. You know, and I couldn't do it. It was in my heart. My heart was like, I will beat all of you up one by one. You know, the warrior in me, you know. And so anyways, I went to play sports in Washington, and I was playing softball out there, and I was living with two white people. You know, there's only white people over there where I was at, you know. And so I was roommates with them, and playing sports and softball, and I would play sports, go to school, and then go to my room and close the door for like 7 months. Don't talk to me. Then when my roommates talk to me, don't talk to me. So finally, my roommate knocked on my door, and she invited me. She said, would you like to come to our party? And I was like, and it's been 7 months deep, my first time in the mainland, you know, and I was like at school, you know, I was like, you know what, I'll go. You know, and I went. And then I went, and then I got to sit and talk with all of the people with white skin, and they were just so amazing, so cool, and you know, I began to open my heart, and from that point on, she became my best friend, and you know, and she took care of me if I needed anything, and so I, you know, when I invited her to Hawaii, I told my Hawaiian friends, I was like, hey, these are my friends, you know, I was like, they got respect in their hearts, you know, and so my family opened their hearts, and you know, and welcomed them. It's more so like, again, back to the respect. If you can handle the judgment of the Hawaiians or any native, but then handle it enough to then show them that you do carry respect, you will be invited, you know. And so that's how I then began to open my heart and my arms for the people of all colors of skin. You know, I began to see through the eyes of the heart after that. You know, I weigh your heart. Then I discern that way if I would like to be your friend or not. Not by the color of your skin, not by your social class, not none of that. It was either how much does your heart weigh, and then I would determine if I would like to have you as a friend or not. So that's when that's kind of got me in the motion of, you know, connecting with all walks of life on the whole planet.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that story.
Yeah.
I think that'll be great for people to hear that, to hear just where you've come from, what you grew up in, what your life was like, the brainwashing you had about the racism and how you transmuted that and how it's possible.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen there's this show with a hypnotist, and he's basically proving that people aren't actually racist inside, where it's a brainwashing thing. And so he gets a guy that's mildly brainwashed around not liking Mexico's. He's an American guy. He's like, oh, the Mexicans take all of our jobs, and he's got all this like programming around him. And this hypnotist basically gets this guy to like eye gaze with the Mexican, and they just like the both of them looking, they see past their skin color and they look into their heart, into their straight into their heart and souls, and they both start like crying. And so it's just like beautiful to know that it's not really who we are naturally or organically. We're born as people that love each other, but it is really our societal programming, and that's what we've grown up in, is to the divide and conquer. They want us to be divided. They want us to be fighting each other so that we're not uniting and standing up against the real tyranny, which is the government, right?
Oh, 100%. You know, if we can't stand each other, you know, we're not looking at the greater picture. Who is causing this? You know, who is causing this? Why do they want us not to like each other so much? And actually, what are they really doing? You know, what are they doing with all of these taxes? You know, like, what is this? You know, people don't have the time to ask those questions because they're too busy with the drama of color, skin color, race, and all this, which has nothing to do with somebody's heart.
Right.
You know, I've met a person probably from everywhere in this entire planet after traveling the world, and they all have beautiful hearts. And then there's ugly hearts too, and everywhere. You know, it just depends on the heart that you carry, not the skin color. You know, and that's what I've learned, and I really enjoy all walks of life, but and I discern through my experiences that I share, not by judgment of what I'm looking at. You
Awesome.
know? Yeah.
And that's how you can deliver the message, because if you're delivering a message that is laced with judgment, the person is going to feel attacked. And so if you're able to deliver the message from a neutral place of just being direct and pointing out, hey, this is the message, I'm doing this from a place of love because I want you to be a better person, then that message can be received better. Because the moment the person feels there's judgment, it feels like an attack. And then they get defensive and they're not able to actually receive the gift of what you're saying. So the fact that you're able to transmute that judgment, I think, is why you're so effective.
Gotta look from the higher perspective, you know. You know, so many different dimensions of what's going on, you know, and then more than the physical, then there's the spiritual realm, and then there's also, you know, different types of behaviors that are happening due to what do you call it, entities in that are present. So you have to discern who you're sitting with, you know. It's just so, it goes so deep once you start to you know, focus on your evolution. You begin to have different eyes, and you know, the main thing is to weigh the heart, you know, and decide from there. No judgment, just weigh the heart and see if you want this person in your life or not, and then that's it. You don't have to have everyone in your life.
Right. Actually, now that you've mentioned the word entity, I actually want to go into my next topic with you. Is I've heard a few stories from you about how you deal with people that you feel are possessed. And I do feel like there is a lot of people on this planet, unfortunately, that through drugs or through alcohol, through trauma, you know, there's openings for other entities to kind of take over and control their faculties. And so I know you've had some experiences with people that you feel are in this way. If you could share a story, like
goes, right? So we're gonna talk about my perspective first, right? So I see there's two forces on this planet. You know, there's the forces of light and the forces of darkness. You know, and for me, the forces of darkness has a lot of demonic entities there that are here to put out the light in those who come to bring joy, and higher purposes of, you know, beautiful things. So another one of my purposes is like, it's like a demon slaying. You know, these demons. Yeah. Once you get used to these demons, you know, it's like whatever. You just can laugh it off, you know. But in the beginning, you know, like when I'm learning these things and who's coming at me, it's like, when a person is vibrating at a certain frequency, which is lower, you know, than love, is you got a jealousy, you got what do you call that? Jealousy, guilt, comparison. You have this kind, you know, judgment. Then there's these doors that open in people. And when these doors open, a matching vibration comes through. And the matching vibration would be like a dark force, the forces of darkness, right? So then that person becomes not who they usually are, as the entity takes them over. And then the vessel gets hijacked, you know. That's why, like, you know, like, why is that person acting like that? Well, when you drop into like depression and all this, these entities take over the vessel, you know. And so for me, I cleanse that kind of stuff if they come forward, you know. Divine presence, you know, awareness and presence. That's what I have to. I see you, you know. I've gotten, you know, I had so much practice in this that now I just look at them, you know. I just look at them and then gone. But in the journey, you know, it's like to learn my power, you know. Creators like, you know, use the power. And what I mean by that is when you're on your spiritual journey, you know, and you learn to silence your mind, right? You learn you're silencing your mind, and you learn to quiet your emotions, and then you hit the stillness. And then when you hit that stillness, you make a command, and anything not of light must move, you know, by your command. So I've learned these things, you know, a lot of align, make command, you know, and then any dark presence must obey that command. So it's like, you know, to practice this, you know, one time, you know, there was a woman who had lots of entities on her, and you can tell because they, like, you know, they swear at the wall, or they're like just acting crazy. People call them the crazy people, whatever. And so she came into the coffee shop. She sat right next to me. You know, sat right next to me. I'm like, oh my goodness, not today, man. You know, so within myself, you know, I was like, you gotta align, you know. He's like, oh, I'm not handling this, you know. So you gotta come in alignment, right? And you have to have your worthiness, because this is what feeds the whole thing, is that worthiness of then delivery, you know. So then you're like, silence, and then in there you say, I was like, if you are not of divine love, divine light, divine truth, I command you to be gone now, right? You say that, and then this energy goes, right? And so next to me, the lady, as soon as I said that, the lady taps me on the shoulder, and she's like, excuse me. And I was like, yeah. She's like, can you watch my water, please? I said, sure. And then she stands up, and she walks behind me, and then walks out the front door, walks across the parking lot, and never comes back. Right? So immediately I was like, oh my God, check it out. Like, wow, it works. Right? Or like, this is us learning our power. We're like, oh my goodness, that entity had to obey. You know, and so that was like the beginning of then using the power, having the confidence, you know, because then when you pass a challenge like that and you show your courage for creator and using the power and integrity for the highest good, creator's like, oh, how about this one? Right? So then I was like, oh, okay. So then one other one, you know, I was in Vegas. Right, and I don't agree with the whole mass thing. I don't believe in any of that, right? So it's like I go into Vegas, right? I mean, I come from the mountain Shasta, right? And then I come down, and I was like, all right, let's go. Go to Vegas, see our nephews, you know? And it's like walk into places, no mask, you look around. Nobody say nothing because we look weird. To them, we look like, where in the world did you come out of? The bushes or something? You know? Right? So then I would need a gas. Right, so this is when they first pushed me to use my power, and then so, what do you call that? So I go into Circle K, and then Circle K, right? I go to the gas station. I'm walking in the gas station, and the lady get the box of masks, right? And I was like, ooh. So I walk over there, and I was like, hi, can I get 30 on 14? And she's like, oh, you need a mask, and I was like, oh no, I don't. I need gas. And she's like, oh, no mask, no service. And I was like, what are you, a hero of obedience or something? I was like, because that doesn't even work. And she's like, oh, you can talk to the manager. You can talk to the manager. I was like, bring the manager. Right? And then, so the manager comes, big ethnic woman comes. Like, she thought she was going to punk me, right? But I'm ethnic too, so whatever. Right? So she comes out, this big woman, tall woman. And she's like, is there a problem? And I was like, I need some gas on 14. She's like, no, you need a mask. And I was like, no, I don't. And she's like, you can call the governor. You can call the governor. And I was like, I'm not talking to the governor. I'm talking to you. And she's like, well, you can call the governor. And I was like, what is this? Discrimination or something? And she's like, no, it isn't, honey. And I was like, oh. I was like, and I go like this, look inside of your heart. Is this the right thing to do? And then she looked me straight in my eyes. She's like, no, but I'm still going to do it. And I was like, and that just like my soul, my spirit was like avatar activation. And it was like, oh yeah. I was like, I know why. I was like, because you need God. And she was like, you're right. And then she turned around and then she ran away. And I was like, get over here. And then I was like, get over here. And she ran away. I was like, oh, man. So I turned around and I went to area. There was all these big 6-foot tall men in line, yeah? And I walked in and I pointed at everybody in their face. And I was like, what are you doing? I was like, it doesn't even work. And then you know what I did? Yeah, I did this. I went to the front of Circle K in Las Vegas. And I was like, you know what? I was like, I bless you. I bless you. I bless you. And I was like, and I command the light of God to flood this space. And then I was like, whatever. And I went to the van, and my wife was sitting in there waiting for me, and she's like, what happened? I was like, oh, don't worry about that. And right, so I go down next door, and I got the gas, right? I was like, okay, whatever, I got my gas. And then you know what happened? 3 days later, the governor, remember, she's like, call the governor. And 3 days later, on the live television in Las Vegas, the governor went on live television and said, I am now removing the mask mandate on the entire state of Nevada. And I was like, oh my goodness, I need to go tell her that the creator had called the governor. I was like, oh, I gotta tell her. Maybe she missed that one. I was like, oh, I'm going back. So I went back. I was like, I'm gonna tell her. I don't care. I don't need no gas. I'm telling her. Right? So we walk in, and then she's not there. I was like, oh, she's on timeout. I was like, oh, I guess she got to sit with that one. Because she said, I know it's wrong, but I'm still going to do that. And that really, that's between you and the creator. I was very shocked to even hear that response, because that's what like massacring countries happen. They're like, well, I know this is wrong, but I'm still going to follow the orders of who's telling me to do this, which is take the lives of everybody else here. And that's the big thing. That's the big problem. Not many have been strong enough to stand up to these forces, and I refuse to bow down to that. I will always stand for the light, and I don't care if you like me, you don't like me. I will be integrity with myself. As long as I have my relationship with the creator, then that's where I stand. It doesn't matter if anybody accepts me. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks of me. I know I'm serving the highest good with the greatest integrity, with my loyalty to the light, and serving this mission and making sure that I fulfill my divine soul purpose in what I have come to this planet to do, and nothing will move that.
Wow. It's really inspiring, because I feel a lot of people they're just sheep. Like I've seen these videos where they're filming, and the girl in the waiting room, it's like at a dentist. There's about 10 people, or maybe like 5 people in the dentist, and this girl, as an experiment, just starts to get up and then sits down, and then gets up and then sits down, and everybody in the waiting room sees her doing it, and they all like start doing it themselves, and they don't question why are you doing this? Why are we all doing this? But it's like this sheep mentality of wanting to conform and fit in rather than wanting to be unique and a unique divine expression of who you actually are.
Yeah, the way I see that is because on top of many other things, like their pineal gland, a lot of pineal glands are poison too, But on top of that, it's like the fear of what other people think of them, that's its own prison. If you're in the fear of what other people will think of me, then I won't be my authentic self because I must be like them, and that's why it's so weird because they're like, I must be like everybody. But then they praise the unique people. Oh, look, she's wearing a different thing. Oh, yay. It's like very confused. They're very, very confused, not being guided well.
Right. And it reminds me of that other story you shared with the police, because I'm finding the police used to be people that we would feel safe around, or, they take, we think that they're there to protect the people, but they've been also brainwashed to now. I don't feel like the police are actually for the people at all. They're, they're there to make money. They're there to do all sorts of things, and they're kind of going against their own morality because they're being brainwashed and being told this is their job. Yeah. And so I'm finding a lot of people are actually not in service, like the military too. They're getting brainwashed so much that they're becoming like these robot slaves that would just kill whoever they're being told to kill without questioning the moral of that, the value of that, the ethics of that.
I know, right? I always like to have hope and to have my own experience to prove me wrong on those things, and although I know like in these kind of positions there are ones with beautiful hearts and then there are one without beautiful hearts, but again, the ones with the beautiful hearts have no courage to stand up, so then what's the point, for then helping humanity? So what happened was, you're referring to is the story I was in I was over there in the mountains, and we were walking and taking our puppy, for our little doggy, for a walk, and she was by the water, and we were minding our own business, and we're smelling the leaves because it reminded of this certain branch in Finland, and we're just talking about the medicine of it. And these two older couples, they were like in their early 70s, but they got power, okay? Even though they were like the hiking ones, the one with full power still. So they weren't like crippled little weakling little things, and they had walking sticks, not like walking sticks because they're elderly, but it was like hiking sticks with the pokies at the end, and we were just, they said, I hear the lady, and she was like, oh, that's so nice that you guys are admiring nature. And she's like, but why don't you? And then she's like, effing put your dog on a leash. And I turn around and I was like, whoa. I was like, hey, back up. And then, because my dog was by the water, and she was like, and there was nobody there. There was no one there. And then I was like, whoa, back up. And then the husband was, they were possessed with demons because people don't act like this. And then so the husband was like, move. And he went around took his pokey sticks and poked my dog in the ribs. And she was just like, she screamed, and then I grabbed the sticks, and it was me and that man, and I was pushing him back. And I was like, what are you doing? I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, you're effing dog. And I was like, and the woman was over his shoulder calling me all kinds of names, like just this, like, you just demonically possessed. I mean, who does this? She's like, you're effing dog. She's like, you're ignorant. F you. And I'm like, what is going on? I was like, what are you doing? She was like, your dog is walking over here. And I'm just like, what? So I push him off. I was like, back up. And then the guy, he came back at me. He came to poke me in my stomach, and I grabbed it back. And then he tried to knee me in my stomach, and I pushed him back. I said, stop it. I was like, what are you doing? I was like, I am a native woman of this land, and you back up now. And then the lady was like, you're no native. You're ignorant. And I had to take everything within me not to judge her color of her skin, and I was like, the only thing I could feel to do was just start chanting. I just started chanting, and I was like, Hemu o ia noaka honua, which means clean this earth of all of its darkness, and I started chanting, and then she goes, what, am I supposed to drop dead now? And I was like, in me, I was like, that's between you and the Creator. I just kept chanting, and they finally turned around and walked away. right? And then A was high, it was in the back because I told her to stay back, you know. And she came back, she was like, oh my God, what happened? I was like, that was like a challenge to see if I can handle the power without judgment, without anger, without, breaking down or using physical. This is my own initiations for my evolution for Creator to grant me certain powers to serve humanity. So I was able to hold my power well without going into those off emotions. And so what you're talking about with the police is that we finally got out of there. A was kind of like distraught. I was like, hey, it was a possession. They were possessed with demons, and they were trying to take our light. Do not judge the color of the skin. It is not that. The darkness wants to separate us, and they want us to do that, and we're not going to do that. And then so I was like, just breathe. It was an attack of the dark forces on the light forces. That is what that was. And then so what happened was, then we saw the police walking, right? And they were walking to where we were, and A was like, should we tell him? I was like, you know what? Should we tell him? And then I was like, yeah, we should tell him. I was like, let's go tell him. So I go over there, and I look the way I do, right? So they're not gonna take me seriously, right? They think so, right? But so I go over there. I was like, excuse me. There are 3 policemen, right? And they're like, oh, the one guy comes. I guess he was like the sergeant or the leader or something, because the other 2 bow down to him. And I was like, excuse me. I was like, and he's like, oh, are you the one with the dog with no leash? I'm like, what? I was like, no, my dog is on a leash. And he's like, where is she? I'm like, she's over there. I was like, but you know what? You know those people who told you that? They attacked us physically and verbally. And he's like, the old people? I'm like, yes, the old people. And he's like, yeah. I was like, how about we all go over there and ask them why they attacked us? And he's like, well, you didn't call us. And I'm like, yeah, but did you hear me? They attacked us. We just came, it just happened. And he's like, well, you didn't call us. And I was like, well, okay, so how about we go over there and ask them why they did that? Because I'm telling you, they attacked us. He's like, I don't know their names. I was like, what? I was like, we can just go over there, right? That's how you got here, right? They went to you, now you walk over here, and now you here telling me this. And he's like, I don't know where they went. And I was like, and then I started laughing because I realized what was going on. And I was like, oh, I get it. All of your hearts are black, that's why. Okay, I see now, right? And I was like, you guys all have black hearts. And then they're like, is there anything else? No, they kept on talking to me like that, right? They were like, oh, I don't know. And I was like, why are you speaking to me like this? And they're like what? I'm like the way you're speaking to me. And I was like, I am a wise, intelligent woman. You do not speak to me like this. And the other 2 policemen had their head down like this. I was like, you don't speak to me like this. And then after he's like, oh, is there anything else? And I'm like, yeah, there is actually. I was like, how about we pray? Let's pray for those who attack others and nobody does anything about it. Let's do that. And they're like, no. I'm like, why not? And he's like, it's none of your business what my religious perspective is. I'm like, I'm not religious either. And then he's like, well, is there anything else? And the other guys couldn't even look at me, right? Is there anything else? I'm like, actually, you know what? There is. And I was like, I will pray. And I will pray that all of your hearts open because they are black. Okay, that's enough. And then I just walked away. I was like, oh, you guys. You know what
I think now that I hear all your stories, I feel like the Creator orchestrated for you to grow up the way that you did, being bullied, having to stand up for yourself in the gangs of the streets that you grew up in, and then going to the military, so that you have this inner courage of being a warrior, of like calling out that darkness and defending yourself, defending your rights, defending what is, the truth and what is the values of this planet. And I feel like you've been like in some sort of training.
Yeah, sounds like Jedi training to stand up against whatever force that comes and not to move. Because I actually went to jail too. I beat up some people and I had to go to jail. So I was in jail for like 18 hours, and I could have had like my own cult. I mean, actually, some good people need to be here, because these people would listen to somebody who has a good heart, because they're getting taken advantage of in there, and so I know the police well like that, and then I know like, military like that. So I don't have any fear with them because I know the system. And when you go in there, you know, it's just a little game, different games that you can play. So I'm not intimidated, I guess I would say. I'm not intimidated by their presence because I've dealt with them before and I know my rights as a human being on this planet. And I know the words to speak to back them up, for them to know that I have my own power and I'm not a servant to them.
Right.
You know?
And that's true sovereignty, right? Sovereignty comes from within. It's knowing who you are. You are a divine expression of God in human form. You know your rights. You know, like, exactly how to stand up for yourself. It has to come from within. You have to have that confidence, that worthiness that you spoke about to really be able to directly, you know, say who you are and not be intimidated by others, because at the end of the day, this hierarchy isn't real. It's just what they've put upon us. Like, the police have, you know, law and order or power over us, but that's not actually real. In the only person that has power over us or that we speak to is God.
Exactly.
We're all equal.
No matter how much money you have, no matter what's your skin color, no matter your status, no matter how many friends you have on Facebook, you know, it's like we are all the same.
Right.
You know, so I know that deep within my core. So I bow down to nobody. You know, I am very respectful. I will respect you, you know, and I will have gratitude for you. But nobody is better than me, and I am better than nobody else. You know, it's an equal fairness ground of our souls experiencing, you know. But I will stand up for myself, and I will cleanse the demons off this planet who approach me, and I will stand for the light. Because my purpose is to anchor the new earth, and I will do that by, you know, not using anger, not falling in fear, but using my courage of worthiness and my prayers for the ancestors, spirit team, galactic team to stand by my side as I honor the truth, you know?
What would you say, I have heard you talk about when you're in a crowd and you see someone that is of the darkness and you don't call them out, their sort of energy sort of takes over and starts to influence other people. I know you've had experiences where you've experienced that before.
Yeah, you know, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just like gotten really to a point where when you do these kind of initiations, I call them, you know, like that's the thing. Like a lot of medicine people or spiritual people, they got this movement of certificates. Right, everybody got the certificate in 3 days, and now you master 21-year-old life coach, right? You know, like no experience, nothing. You know, so it's like through the experiences that I have had and the true initiations of overcoming them and doing my prayers and falling many times. And I'm not saying I didn't fall many times, but that's the blessing, right? The falling is the blessing of getting back up. You know, and so now, you know, when I'm in crowds, you know, I can just simply give. The look, you know, but I tell you that one story, in the Goodwill story. So curators like, make a kahuna pouch, right? I was like, what, kahuna pouch? I was like, oh, I'm gonna make the salt, right? I'm gonna make a salt, right? So there's a prayer that you can do over salt that will clean space. You know, you can just put out, or you will burn, right? And so I was like, oh, I'm gonna make this salt. And then so my wife, she is a great creator, and she made me a little medicine bag that I put the salt in, you know. And so what happened was I was just joking. You don't ever joke to the universe because they're gonna put you on a mission, you know. And I was like, creator, I'm ready I will do work today. I was like, I'll do work today, creator. So I grabbed my pouch. I was just joking. Look, I'm gonna put my salt pouch on my little belt, you know. And then so we go to the store, and it's the Goodwill. I wanted to gather some things to remake, you know, recreate. And so we went to the Goodwill store in the city, you know, and then so as we're in a park, I see a man who's passed out like this. And then I see a man walking by in the middle of like 11 o'clock in the afternoon, and he walks by and he just totally steals his stuff. He's like, you know, and I was like, oh. I was like, Aya, I gotta tell him because Creator showed me that, you know. And he's like, no, maybe it's his karma. Maybe the other guy shouldn't be passed out, and then they gotta learn something. I was like, okay, fine. So I told the Creator, I was like, okay, if you want me to tell him something, you bring this person to me, okay? So I was like, okay. I didn't think nothing of it. I was like, yeah, why? Right? The guy stole it. He's gonna leave, right? So he goes, right? What you call? So I go into the next store and I come back. And as soon as I walk into Goodwill, I just open the door, and then boom, the guy looks at me, and then I look at him. It's just like, and I get like this. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Right? So I was like, okay, we got this. Right? So I get my soul, right? I have zero idea what's about to happen. I take my soul and put my soul in my hand, right? I'm like, oh, here we go. So I'm watching him, and he's watching me, and he's walking, and I'm watching him. The whole goodwill, all around. And then boom, he stops in front of me. And then in between us is a clothing rack. And then there's clothes, and he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him. And he goes like this. We got a problem? Right? And he goes like, I saw you steal that man's stuff. And he's like, oh yeah? I was like, yeah. And he's like, we got a problem? I was like, and I go like this. I saw you steal that man's stuff. And then he's like, oh yeah? I was like, yeah. And so he walk around the whole clothes, and now he stands in front of me in the aisle. Right? And I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me, and I was like, and he's like, we got a problem. And now I smell the alcohol, right? So I was like, oh, you demon, I see you, right? I was like, oh, okay, right? So then he goes like this. He goes, because when you get intoxicated to a certain level, a door opens and demons come through and they want to pick on the light, right? But for me, they come to me to be seen and to be transmuted. So that's kind of like what was going on. So anyways, he comes in front of me and he's like, we got a problem? And I tell him, no, we don't got a problem, but I saw you. And he's like, and you're never gonna believe what he said. Like that's everything I just said is exactly what happened. Okay? And then he leans in again. And he goes like this. Out of nowhere, right? He goes like this. I am God. Yeah. And I was like, I didn't move, right? I was like, I was like, oh yeah? I was like, I am God too. and then he spits on the ground, and I was like, yeah. And he's like, yeah. I was like, yeah. And let me tell you, we're in the middle of Goodwill at 11 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're like, yeah, you, yeah, blah, blah, right? And A is in the back with Alika, right? And what's going on? And then after I was like, yeah, and he's not moving, right? And I have the salt, remember? So I have the salt, and then I start moving, and I go like this, because I remember to use my commands, right? I was like, so I line up and I looked at him and I said, and I looked at him and I took a step forward and I threw the salt over his head like, because I muddle it so you can't see it, right? It's all like dust. I'm like, I was like, I bless you. And then he's like, and he goes like this, and then he's just standing there, and I'm like standing there, and he's like, and I go like, I command you to back up now. And then he takes a step back. I was like, okay, I was like, all right. And I was like, I command you to back up no. And then he takes another step back. I was like, oh yeah. And I was like, I command you to begone no. And then he spits, and then he turns around, and he walks across the store, and he leaves the store. I was like, So then I go to the front, right? I go to the front register. I was like, excuse me. All of this just happened, right? Excuse me. I was like, there's a man who's drunk over here. And because they're not going to understand any of this, right? So like, there's a man that was drunk over here. And we had like our thing going on. And I'm just letting you know right now that me and my family is going to leave. And if something happens outside, that's me protecting us. I was like, you guys got that? And they're, oh yeah. I was like, because he's drunk, remember? He's drunk, and we're going to go outside. He went outside. So if something happens, that's me protecting us. Then we're going to watch. I'm like, thank you very much. And then we walked outside, and then I looked, and it was by the bench, and where the guy who was passed out, he had a construction man with a vest helping him up, and then the guy who I just threw the salt on was actually there helping the man get off the bench as well. So I'm not certain he gave the stuff back, but he was over there being kind to the man that he stole his stuff, at least that I know, and was helping him get up from the bench. So that was a call that Creator called upon me to do, and because I said I was available to serve the light, he put that in front of me. But since then, I don't have to use so much power. Creator has granted me, just look and make the energy and they pass, you know?
I think it's powerful. Both stories you shared, there was actual like results that you got to see afterwards.
Yeah.
Like with the masked lady, the governor
Yeah.
saying that he
Yeah.
banned it. So it's like showing as proof, like as you stand for the truth and the light of God and for the love, that it's actually transmuting physical reality and
Yeah.
things are actually happening. And it brings me to the point of what you said, that it's not evil that's going to ruin this planet. It's the people that ignore evil.
Yes. Yeah, and exactly, that's what I see, and that's what has been shown to me. It's like this world is not an ugly place because of the evil people, because there's not that much in comparison to everybody. So many beautiful hearts. I've met a person from around the entire planet, and it's not the evil, it's not ugly because there's evil. It's ugly because of those who do nothing about it. And that's the problem. Those who do nothing of it, they pretend like it's not happening. They don't acknowledge it. How are you to transmute something when you don't shine light upon it? You just bringing it to light. That's what we're here to do. Why would we pretend like it's not happening? If you are a true light warrior, and if you are truly here to anchor the new earth, then simply just bring truth to what is occurring, and that's just bringing light to the darkness.
Right.
You know?
And this brings me also to one final demon story, which is you shared with me about, your ancestry and Captain Cook and the Aya ceremony. If you could share that story.
Yeah. Oh, that was the one. That was the one that really cleaned up my vessel, because you do this work, you do the shadow work, and you can do so much. And I'm not called to do so much plant medicine because I like to do it manually so I can see, and find the pathways. And so finally I was called when I went back home to now the Big Island. I went and grandmother ayahuasca called me, and I was like, ooh, grandma calling me. I really respect grandmas. I wear my grandmother's ring. She named me. She named me after Queen Lelokalani's song, Sonoy. So I honor grandmothers very dearly, and so grandmother ayahuasca is the grandmother spirit, and I felt it was time to sit and hear what she had to say. So in my ancestor line, I am a descendant of the Peleas, and Pelea is my ancestor who killed Captain Cook on the beach in Kauai in 1779. He killed, with the arrival of Captain Cook, he had killed 90% of the Hawaiians within a year time, landing there in 1778 to 1779. 90% of the Hawaiians died.
Wow.
Coughing or rape or whatever they was doing, malicious things, and 90% of the Hawaiians died. So my ancestor is the one who murdered him. So with that killing, I was, I have that ancestral karma, So how am I to know I have that? So grandma wanted to show me that, grandma showed me this. So I did 3-day journey, and the first one I got to meet the essence of planet Earth, the one who made the call for the spirit team and the star seeds to come and help her, save her from the darkness that was overtaking this planet, and so I got to meet her in humility, and I was so grateful to be in her presence. And I was so humbled, and she actually thanked me, and I was like, "What do you mean? You are the greatest," And anyways, I had that experience. But then the second experience, you don't, everyone carries demons and shadows, and that's what you must cleanse within yourself. Through these experiences on this planet. It's not the easiest to be on, Anyway, so the second night, what Tess is referring to is that the second night was then grandma want to show the darkness inside of myself, and so what happened was I started to get cold, and I was getting cold, and I asked to be put in the shower in hot water, and I was on the lava fields on the Big Island, and so we went to the shower, and she turned on the water, and as soon as it hit my back, my mouth opened, and it's like grandma went through my body like snakes, and just like threw out this ancestral demon. It's like just like when you turn on a fire hose, it's like boom, the water hose is like, just like she threw it out of my body, and I was like, whoa, I was like, oh my goodness, what was that? And so I went to lay down back upstairs, and then it began. and it began. And now what I call it the legion of enticer of beings of light come to entice to sell your soul, and that then came to offerings. And this legion thing told me, it was like, I can give you the power. And I was like, I don't want it. And it was like, you can have grandma's power, ayahuasca. And I was like, I don't want it. And I was like, you can serve her and be more powerful than grandma. I was like, no. And so that was me going against whoever in my family lineage sold their soul. Again, here we are. But you can have it all. I don't want it. So that was going on for like an hour. I was so tired going in and out. I was like, no. And then I opened my eyes, and my little dog, Alika, her ceremonial pup, she looked at me, and I was like, no, Alika. It's like, no, Alika. She's our little ceremonial pup. And she started walking towards me, and I was like, no, Alika. Because I didn't want that thing to enter her. And I was like, no, Alika. And she kept coming. And then I looked at Alika, and she just looked me right in my eyes, and she put her paw on my heart. And then she put her other paw on my heart. And then she laid on me. And then it was like, and that thing disappeared. She transmuted the entity of enticement, who many of our dear brothers and sisters have sold their soul to. So I was able to overcome that challenge and not sell my soul for power. So since then, it's amazing. Since then, my creative spark has happened, and I've started to play the ukulele. I can have like musical tones now. It really opened up, that ancestral demon that's been following the lineage for so long. I was able to finally transmute that for our people.
And I think something you said you also transmuted was disgust, right?
Oh my goodness, yeah. Because what happened was, from that, when Captain Cook killed everyone, as I was journeying, I had then came to discover, what was brought to my attention, that when that happened, I had then absorbed the energy of disgust. And you don't think to transmute that. I transmute anger, I transmute jealousy, I transmute comparison, but you don't think that actual disgust is something that is very heavy and sits I feel in the solar plexus, because that's where I felt it really strongly. And, and in this lifetime, I now come to realize that's why I always want to focus on beautiful things. My wife, she makes the most beautiful things, and it's beautiful, 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 because beautiful is all, the counterpart of disgust. But then to find the root of where this disgust come from ancestrally, to then forgive it in that timeline, then to free myself from that energy field, has really opened my everything, pretty much. My true divine soul purpose has been activated. I feel so good in my power. I'm ready to share beautiful things, and I'm really ready to share how to stand in your power, and how to use these forces that serves the highest good, from a place of integrity and for the good of all. Never for the good of self, but for the good of all,
Right, because I feel like when you talk about the disgust, a lot of people, including myself, I've had to work on, and not having disgust for pedophiles and the people on this planet that are, have human trafficking, the children. Like, there's so much disgust towards these people that are doing this horrific thing to the children. And I think that the more that you have that disgust, you're creating more duality, right? You're creating more polarization. And that's not going to heal on this planet, is because you're just going to create more hatred and more division, more separation. And if you can come to a place of compassion, because that person that's a pedophile must have been abused when they were a child, right?
Exactly.
And if you can come to this place of realization that the light and the dark is all expressions of God. And if this that this generational trauma, like you did, is just coming through over people, and it's just like, this person got abused, and their dad and their mom or whatever, and it's just carrying on. And if you can really come from that place of like compassion and forgiveness, then we can end this generational trauma and not keep putting this us versus them They are the bad ones. I'm the good ones. This kind of thing. It's like you can be direct, send it to the light, send any demonic forces to the light, and then forgive that person for the trauma they've been through that allowed that entity to come through in the first place.
Totally. You know, and the way I feel about that is the only way to be able to do something like that is to perceive it from a higher level. You know, a higher perspective. If you look at it through the third dimensional lens, you know, which is like the drama of the world, this is happening, that is happening to me, you will never find forgiveness, because that's where the disgustingness happens, right? So the way I feel that I was able to transmute, and I still have to make sure I look at the highest perspective, you know. As we all know, you know, as spiritual warriors, and as we walk this planet, you know, you gotta watch. There is karma to be burned. There are life paths that need to be walked. There are certain things that certain souls have signed up for a certain revealing of freeing humanity. You know, I'm not saying they deserve it. I'm just saying that if the souls have signed up for certain experiences for them to burn karma or to help revelation on something like that, we truly do not know, you know. So when I learned of many horrific things on this planet, it was very heartening. You know, you have to go through that grief, the grief of knowing that it's not really as beautiful as you thought. What's been going on this planet. You go through that grief, and you have to go through it. You have to fill it out, and then when you come through, you have to start looking at the higher perspectives and really start taking the teachings in all of these spiritual courses. Like, we are a soul who comes to this planet to experience, you know, we choose our parents, we choose this. You have to start looking through that, which I feel then brings your vibration higher to live as a higher vibrational being. Now, if you look at it through the third dimensional eyes, like, oh my God, that happened, and then in the drama story, then the emotion is going to start to attach, and then the disgust is going to start to grow, and then you drop down to the third dimension where all the demons and all of those roam, you know. And that's why us as the spirit team, we have to constantly have the self-discipline in our minds to look from the highest perspective. And so therefore, the truest thing that I feel that we can do is send the prayer. You know, send the prayer, become aligned so the prayer becomes as powerful as you can send, and then basically be an inspiration of joy, love, and happiness, and create that ripple, and the ripple of that light will just transmute all that ugliness. You know, that's what we need to do. If we can't raise our own vibration to create this ripple, we will only join that lower dimension that we do not enjoy anyway. So we will be a part of what we were once disgusted of. So that's why we have to always look at the highest perspective, come to the joy, bring that energy, and then create, boom, and then a ripple of love and joy. And that ripple will transmute all that ugly behavior.
Right. That's why the biggest contribution one can make is clearing out the darkness in oneself.
Yes.
Like you cleared out that disgust.
Man.
And what's really helped me is I had a friend that told me that she was channeling with this friend, and a being came through, and this being was one of those beings from Egypt that is actually responsible for the whole trafficking. Like, he's created the whole human trafficking in the first place. And my friend, who's really a powerful channel, and she's very connected to the children and what's going on, and she asked this being, why did you do that? Like, why would you create something so dark? And this being actually looked at her and said, well, I was a very powerful being of the light, and I went as far as one can go on the path of benevolence, that there was nothing else for me to learn. So I turned and went onto the path of the dark to experience that. And so that is all what God is. We're all expressions of God, and we're all experiencing both light and dark, so that we can experience both parts of it and then come back into the center, knowing that it's all one. And so you could see someone that's really evil, like a lot of people hate Trump, for instance.
Yeah.
How do we know that Trump isn't a powerful angelic light worker that's here to be a manifestation of the world's ego and playing this really difficult role that people are hating him, but he's not that who he really is, but he's playing that role for the liberation of humanity.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with the story of Jesus and Judas. Everyone thinks Judas betrayed Jesus, but I read this book called Anna, the Grandmother of Jesus, where this woman channeled Anna, Jesus' grandmother, and actually she said that Judas was Jesus's most closest confidant disciple, the one that he loved the most. And God actually said the one that can actually play this role of betraying Judas isn't what he wanted to do. He didn't want to play that role of betraying Jesus, but he did it because it was for the greater good of humanity, because he knew that it would help Jesus's, being on the cross, and everything that happened was a huge lesson for humanity to go through. So this man didn't want to betray Jesus, but he did that role because it was for the greater good. And by me learning these stories, I look at some people that are playing this role of evil, and I'm like, how do I know this isn't a very powerful archangel playing a very difficult role to liberate humanity, to liberate us, for us to learn? And it's helped me to not have that huge disgust and that duality and that blame. And I'm really seeing that would be a really powerful thing for us all to come to, that realization as a
the judgment, right? The judgment of the outside world. And that's why we must focus on our own inside world, because we don't know the true stories anyway, regardless on like what you just said. I mean, those are great possibilities, and those are probably what really even happened, because what they tell us, I don't believe that at all. So this kind of story is probably what really happened. I know that history is his story. Doesn't mean that the winner, the one who won whatever won or is telling the story, was the good one, or was the one who was serving the highest good. It could have been the evil one who won then to tell the story that was the, and that's why, again, our judgment, we must come back inside. What about me? How can I contribute to the greater good of my reality and the greater good of humanity? It's like the greater, the more I love myself, the more I am worthy, the more this outside world change. The more inside world become beautiful, the more outside world become beautiful. And that's what I just truly focus on,
Right, and that comes to a point where you spoke about, you used to really look into the conspiracies a lot, and you were very much in that world of like looking, what is the darkness up to, and it kind of used to lower your vibration. And then I realized you started to, instead of looking at it every day, you started saying, I do not consent, I do not consent. And then you transmuted that, because you started to feed your energy, and a lot of people are doing that, feeding their energy to these conspiracies all the time, and then it's lowering their vibration. They're feeling powerless, and they're also creating more of that timeline with their energy and focus. So they're actually kind of working for the darkness in a sense without knowing about it.
Exactly. That's what I was telling Gaia today or the other day. It was like, I know that's happening over there. Like, for example, the whole Florida thing right now, or even the Hawaii thing, all the things that are ugly out there. I know that is happening, but that's not my happening. My happening is right here. If I put my happening where that is happening, I will then take that happening and then bring that to my happening, and my happening will then become that. The only thing I can do, knowing that that's happening, I don't consent into that. I don't consent into that darkness, and I call upon all angels to surround those beautiful souls and protect them from all evil. That's greater than going in there and like, oh my God, look at everybody, look what they're doing over here, holy smokes. That's then using the power, and when you do those prayers, the whole they must listen. The angels and the ancestors are standing by as your spirit team. You need to make the command. So that's what I focus on now. I focus on I'll look and I'm like, oh my God, that's so ugly. Okay, creator, angels, ancestors, spirit guides, I call upon you now to surround these beautiful beings and protect them from all harm. Please protect them from any evil, and allow them to have the courage and the strength and the clarity to rise above this. Bless them. And so it is, and using that power is, transmuting that.
Right, and I like the balance that you have as well, is because I don't think it's a good idea to completely bypass it, because if you're bypassing it, then you're kind of that's not helping the situation by just sticking your head in the sand and being ignorant, because it's like, oh, I'm just allowing evil to happen. But if a good balance is, okay, you can look at what's happening and then saying, I do not consent. When you say, I do not consent to what's happening, you are then standing up for the light and saying that I don't consent to this darkness happening, because most of what's happening is the people on humanity are basically consenting to all these things, because the darkness will put what they're about to do in movies, or the politicians will do these things, and no one's standing up to them. No one is saying this is wrong or this. So we're consenting to it, and then basically this is why this world is the way it is, because everybody's consenting to the darkness and being slaves. We're all slaves to the darkness because we're allowing and consenting them to have power over us, instead of standing up and saying, I don't consent. I do not consent to this.
And that's the trickery, right? The darkness is so manipulating because most of the people don't know that they don't have the power to not consent, right? So this is a free will universe. Free will. So if you don't say no, you say yes. And that's what's happening to a lot, you know? And for you to say, I do not consent to this behavior, that takes away power from that kind of behavior, you know? And that's shining light. I see you and I bless this situation and I do not consent in any more darkness. That's very, very powerful. You know, that's great mountains will move when someone is aware enough to utilize that do not consent command.
I just got chills when you said that.
Yeah.
It's powerful. And, you know, a lot of people feel overwhelmed. Oh, I feel powerless. There's so much bad and darkness in the world, but that's a good step. Look at something that you don't agree with and you say, I do not consent to this. And by the more people that say that, it can have a ripple effect. And just leading by example is the best thing that one can do.
Totally. And that's the thing, too, with the forgetting, right? The remembrance. We're coming back to the remembrance. Everyone has forgotten their powers. If they remember the power they have just through prayer, just through I do not consent, the whole reality would shift like this. You know, so the more of us who learn these powers, the bigger the ripple becomes. You know, there needs to be a certain percentage of humans on this planet who gets this kind of technology. It's a technology of the within worlds. You know, and we say, even when you turn on television, if anybody watch TV, I don't know, I don't watch TV, but you turn it on and then it's like, if scary movie happened, some people, my family watch that, and it's like, because before you turn the TV on, you say, I do not consent in any witchcraft that comes out of this television, any brainwashing. I do not consent. I hear and I'm just witnessing what is occurring. I do not consent any magic on me. And so it is. You know, if you don't say something like that, you turn that on, that witchcraft and that all that stuff, you're saying yes to that. So you have to consciously say no. Because if you don't consciously say no, you are saying yes. You are unawarely saying yes.
Powerful. Thank you. So I have one more thing to say, and I left this one for last because it is very controversial. And I spoke about this with you before, and I think that this will be a powerful thing to end off, because I think if someone gets triggered by this, at least it's at the end. If they want to switch off, they're going to switch off, and they've heard all the good, beautiful, powerful codes you've shared.
I call them the Mr. Smiths.
Right. So this is trigger warning for everybody on this last subject. So you have told me that you feel like you're a walk-in, and you actually feel like you're more of a male spirit in a female body. Could you talk to people out there that are feeling the same confusion?
Same way, right? You know, because then I'm happy I went through that portal prior to all of this agenda happening of confusion. You know, because most of what's happening now is by influence. It's not by what you feel, it's by influence. And a lot of the people who don't stand in their own uniqueness want to fit in, right? So it's like a fad now. It's like a fad. Oh no, I'm a something. You know, I am something rather than what I'm not now. But what I experienced was when I was 4 years old in Hawaii, I hit my head, you know. I hit my head on this, and I had 16 stitches. And when I came back, I thought it was a boy. You know, I was like, wait a minute, why do I have to wear a skirt? You know, I was like, I'm not wearing this. Why do I have this hair? You know, I started just cutting my own hair off. You know, and my mom would make me wear like skirt, and I would put my shorts on. I would hide the shorts in my bag and go to school and put the shorts on. And I would wear a low hat and walk into the boys' bathroom. I was like, I am not a girl. I don't know what everybody's thinking. And then I started playing football with the boys because like, I'm a boy. I'm gonna play football. But since they knew I was a girl, they would bully me. I was the first girl football player in Hawaii back then, you know. And so what would happen, I was only like 7th grade or something like that, and I was the first girl to come out, you know. And but I was looking like a boy, you know. I'm a boy with you guys. So what happened was they beat me up. They ran me over, beat me up. They're, what are you doing here? Da, 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 you know, bullied me. And then I went back the next year, you know. But I guess the creator had my back, because the next year I went, he like activated some superpower within me that I became like all-star. I was like the quarterback. I was like all-American. I was a team captain, middle linebacker. I was running over all the boys. I had like superpowers and everybody respected me, you know. But then, so I played for a couple of years like that, all like, in the light, in the spotlight. And then what happened was ninth grade came, right? Ninth grade came, and that's when the boys, it's a genetic thing, okay? XX, XY, not a problem now. I know now, right? So, but then ninth grade came, and then the boys got bigger. It's just the vessel they're in. It's not a judgmental thing. It's nothing. It's just the vessel you have. And then so I was like, looked at them, and I said, well, I'm gonna play with the girls now. I humbly was like, you guys, hey, that's you guys, man. I'm not gonna get run over by you guys. So I went to play with the girls, and then I had my experience being all American and all that, and then I started growing my hair. I started accepting my feminine side, that I had a girl body, and I had my first boyfriend. And then after that, like, I just like, and then I was a bartender. I was like, actually, being a woman is amazing. I was like, look, everybody does everything for you. So I feel like I'm a two-spirit. So I feel like I'm a man in a goddess body, like for real, and I can hang out with the guys, and I can hang out with the goddesses, and I feel comfortable and respected as such. But I fully accepted my vessel in this lifetime, and I have learned that regardless of what you feel, there's an XX chromosome and an XY chromosome, which is for that purpose and for that purpose. It's nobody is better than anybody else. And then in this lifetime, on a soul's journey, it's to accept yourself and to love yourself. So can you love what you have chosen, right? We was talking about the higher perspective. You chose to be in this body. You chose that experience. And through that experience, the journey of the walking path of then enlightenment, whatever you want to call it, is to love thyself. I love the body I have chosen. I love who I am. It doesn't mean I can't be a tomboy. It doesn't mean I can't like boy things. But it's like a balance inside that honors both. Because in truth, in soul level, we are both genders. The masculine and the feminine. We got to balance the masculine and balance the feminine. But in this life experience, we have chosen the vessel that we have chosen for this life experience, for the evolution of our soul's growth. And if you don't accept that, then you're going to have to relive, as we know, another lifetime to learn to love yourself. That's how I perceive all of that,
Thank you. It's very awesome to hear that, because people that are listening to you can relate to you and where you're coming from. And now you have a loving wife.
Oh, yeah. And that's why they're like, oh, what is, like, well, you guys are together. I was like, I know, because I'm a man in this woman body. And I really, I'm attracted to the divine feminine. That's just who I am. Not because the media told me, not because I'm confused with who I am. It's I know who I am, and I enjoy the divine feminine as my partnership in life, and I honor it as such. We don't identify as anything besides I am Sonoy, and she is as she is. She is Aya. People always ask us, oh, what's your pronoun? I was like, yeah, we don't play that game. So, anyways, what's your name? I was like, we do not play the game, the ideology of pronouns. Because if you want to get me started in that, if I have to call you these made up things, if you say that you are they and you're telling me you have all these demons inside of you. In my perspective, right? And you can have your own perspective. But if you tell me I'm like, okay, who's here? Because I do exorcism, right, on demons, right? And demons, according to the Bible, but in the Bible, the demons call themselves they, them, they, we, and us. And so therefore you're telling me who is all in there then? Can you introduce everybody then? It's like, if you're going to be going like that, I need clarity. I really enjoy clarity. So the whole thing is I agree to disagree, and if you really want to play my game, then it's like, okay, I'm going to call you that the day you call me master of the universe, goddess of all worlds, the empress of all galaxies and beyond. And then you got to bow 5 times, and then you got to do 10 jumping jacks, and then you got to kiss my feet, and then I will speak to you. So then that's what I identify as. Like, this is why I'm not going to play this game. Right. It's just, life is really simple. XX, XY, I am. That's how I see it. Right. You get confused. To me, confusion is darkness, clarity is light. You bring confusion to my world, then I will bring salt with me. Because then I see the darkness in my presence. You know? And people can like me and people don't like me. I don't have a problem with that. You know, it's, I am who I am. And if you enjoy my presence, then let's enjoy life together. And if you don't, then don't come by me. You know, it's as simple as that. You know, we all have the right to enjoy what we must. There's a lot of people who play different games. Then go hang out with the people who play those games. There's a lot of people who want to live in clarity. Then hang out with the people who want to live in clarity. We're not obligated to be by each other. If there is no agreement of something, then simply go in separate directions and live your truth, whatever that truth is.
Right.
Around the people who accept you there.
Right, because I feel like that's what's happening is people are imposing their will on others and it's not consensual. And now I'm being made to feel like I'm a bad person if I'm not speaking a certain way. And for me, that just creates more separation, more duality, when it's like, I see you as a human being and I love your spirit and I love your soul and I see you as a divine expression of God, you know. Namaste, I recognize the soul in you. And I feel if anyone, as long as you're not causing harm to another, as long as you're being a good person, I don't care what your orientation is. I don't care about how you want to dress. If you want to have a sex change, if that feels in your heart is not influenced by the outside, but is influenced by your own internal compass, there is no judgment. As long as you are having, I judge people by, I don't judge, but I discern people by their heart and how they treat people. And that's all that matters. And so I would hope that people listening to this will not try and demonize others that are choosing to be different or choosing to speak differently, you know, because I feel like this whole like, you must call me this and you must call me that, and it's, you know, it's just causing more separation. It's making people feel like they're wrong.
Exactly.
And it's just like a reshaping, a rewording of like, can we just respect each other as human beings on this planet?
And agree to disagree.
Yeah, and agree to disagree.
Simply agree to disagree. I mean, why am I to shift my reality for your illusion? Period. You know, I'm not playing this game. You know, I'm not playing this game. If you tell me I identify as, in my understanding, I hear, I pretend to be. And I'm not going to play pretend here. I have a mission to anchor the light on this planet. And there's a universe to, you know, to honor and stuff. And I'm not playing this dramatic little lostness kind of thing. I've been in actually very many conversations about this. And, you know, they want me to speak a certain way. I'm like, why? Who are you for me to surrender to this reality that's your trauma that you must overcome? Why are you dragging me in your trauma? That's your own responsibility. And that's it. I never dragged my trauma into nobody else's world. I took forth the demon who came out of me and transmuted that and then find clarity. And I don't come over here and be like, well, you know this and you know that. No, this is my responsibility. What needs to happen is maturity. Maturity needs to happen. And we need to take responsibility for our own traumas and figure out who we are. There's 2 questions that this man asked me after I awakened, you know, and I was on the cruise ship, and he could see me because I had to work one more contract on the ship before I went to travel the world. And he saw me and he's like, "Are you awakened?" I was like, "I am. I have awakened." I was like, "What's going on?" You know, and he just laughed and he said, "On your journey, you must learn 2 things." And I was like, "What is it?" And he's like, "Who are you?" Right? And I was like, okay. And then he was like, and where are you? Right? So then I was like, wait a minute, where am I? I'm on a cruise ship. You know? But then to come to see on a higher perspective, you know, we're on planet Earth here. We have this mission going on. We are in a realm that was overrun by darkness, transmuting it to light, anchoring a new beautiful realm, you know, like more deeper knowingness of these things. So who am I? This is the journey that many must go on, because if you ask any who are confused of all this kind pronoun stuff, then there is no certainty of who that person is. And I've had many conversations with this kind of people, you know, and if you can't solidly tell me all the people inside you, all of they, who are they? Okay, if you are they, who are all of they? What is their purpose? What is their name? And what is all it is? Give me all the specifics then, okay, if there's they in there. You know, I just want to find clarity, because my purpose on this planet is to bring clarity, which is bring light to confusion. And that kind of vocabulary is confusing. So I refuse to live in the confusion, because that's living in the darkness. And I came from the darkness. I am from the darkness, and I'm not going back. So if you do not bring me clarity, then I will bring my salt, and I will bring my prayers, and I will bring my ancestors, and I will bring my spirit team, and I will sit there and until clarity happens, or I will simply remove myself and agree to disagree.
Right. And the last thing that I'll just say on that matter is I know that there is also beings that I've heard, from back in the day that were actually truly androgynous. And so I could see, a part of me can see that, some people are not wanting to be called he or she. They want to be called they because they are truly feeling androgynous. I can see there being a part of that. I can see as being part of the light. And then there's also like everything. There's light and dark within everything. And so I think as long as the person, isn't demonizing others and imposing their will on others.
And that's the main thing.
Then that's the main thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care if you're they with 1 million beings inside of you,
Or if they just want to be called they because they don't relate to being.
But I'm not going to change my vocabulary. Just simply English vocabulary. I mean, how's that going to make me feel? I don't even know you, and then they came here and now I'm confused. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, stop confusing me. You want to be called that, then be called that. But, don't impose that I must change my vocabulary, because I come from Hawaii and I speak Pidgin, and it took me many years to speak proper English because I was demonized for speaking broken English. I was speaking broken English, and I would be serving the bar top to rich people, and they would treat me like servants because my English wasn't proper and I didn't speak in a certain way. And I have many, many years learned to master my own language for clarity. And now there are people who want me to go back to this kind of vocabulary that I have grown from. I'm not doing that.
Right.
That's my right. What about me? What about my right? What about my right for clarity? How about that? Huh? You want that? Well, I want this then. What happened?
Yeah, and as long as you're treating that person with respect, that's all that matters. It's the respect, not the actual words, but the respect and our intention of our hearts and how we treat each other. That's what matters.
Exactly. Because within me, I can say they, because I have all of these cells in here, right? All of these cells are in here. I got heart, I got lungs, they are all in here, right? I got eyeballs, I got everything like that. There's many of that. I don't change my vocabulary to describe myself as all of those things inside of me. It's just like, come on now, cut it out. Let's all just master ourselves. You got, see, distraction, right? Distraction from mastery of this to anchoring the light. That's a whole nother agenda. To get you confused, to get pissed off at everybody so nobody does their own work, to master themselves, that they truly are the alignment of a spark of God expressing life, to come here to bring kindness and joy and loving and have a beautiful earth. That is what we must be focusing on. And that's where I'm at. I don't have time for this kind of games of name. What's your name? And actually traveling the world, as you know, when you travel the world, you can be hanging out with somebody for like weeks and you don't even know their name, because it doesn't matter. It's the soul that you're hanging out with. It's the being, it's their heart that you're experiencing. When I travel the world, when we travel the world, name doesn't matter, age doesn't matter. Experiencing matters. When you're experiencing and in that joyful space, it doesn't matter the identity of anything. Just experience and live with that joy. And that is it.
Aho. Well, thank you, Sonoy, so much. It's been a very powerful conversation with a lot of beautiful codes and insight and wisdom. And it's beautiful to witness your experience of where you've come from and where you are now. And I hope that many people hearing this will be inspired to stand for their truth, to also call out the darkness, to not consent to the reality that is being imposed upon them.
Yeah, and I know it doesn't have to be that powerful. I know I'm very extreme. I'm just an extreme being, It's just acknowledging truth. If you feel that you have to say something, it doesn't mean you have to blurt it out and be blah. But you should honor what your body is saying, because that's what I call the call, right? The universe asks you, are you going to answer the call to speak the truth here? And you can deliver in any unique way. If you come in a certain way, as long as you're coming from your heart and, with integrity and no harm, You know, if somebody takes something personally, that's, as long as you have delivered that from your heart, you have done your, you know, you have fulfilled your purpose, and the way they receive that is their own journey to integrate. As long as you're coming from a beautiful place. That's how I feel, and that's what I've been doing. I learned to speak the proper tone, to speak to the soul, and the way you receive that is the way you receive that. And if you want to come back at me, if your heart feelings are hurt, then we can have a mature conversation about why I feel and what I see and all these things, so clarity can happen. That's how we must become mature in this world.
Right, and by speaking the voice, you are the voice for the voiceless.
Exactly.
And that is how we change the world.
Exactly.
Thank you, Sanoi. Aho, blessings.
Blessings.
Can you end us off
Mahalo.
with some Hawaiian words?
Some Hawaiian words.
A Hawaiian prayer.
A Hawaiian prayer, yes. All right, let's all close our eyes and just receive this blessing, okay? Hui. All right. Me ke ia pikai. Ho'o ma ema e I oe. Mai ka piko o ka po'o. A ka poli o ka wawa'e. A la'a ma na kihi e ha o ke kino. Amma ma ua noa le vale. Shoo! E pili mau na po mai ka I iwe mahalo ke kua.
Yeah. That was so awesome.
Yeah, it was good.
Fuck yeah, Sanoi.
Yeah.
That was powerful.
Thank you for watching. If this resonated and you wish to be a part of the change, please share and subscribe for more content.